Welcome to the Dangerously Divine podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Loren, entrepreneur, life coach, and your new spiritual bestie. We dive deep into all things feminine magnetism, mindset, and empowerment. Prepare to unlock your full potential and activate your feminine gifts. If you're an ambitious woman who's ready to stop playing small, step into your feminine power, and claim a life beyond your wildest dreams, then you're in the right place. So go ahead and turn up the volume. You're about to hear juicy stories, inspirational advice, and transformational tips that'll help you up-level your life and align with the divine goddess within you. More self-confidence, freedom, and abundance are all just a play away. Thank you for listening and enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome to the Dangerously Divine podcast. If this is your first time listening, hello, my name is Rachel. I am the host of this show. If this is not your first time listening, welcome back. I am thrilled to have you here again. This is season 3. I cannot believe I am saying that. The Dangerously Divine podcast is 1 year old. If you told me a year ago that this podcast would evolve into what it is today, that I would be comfortable speaking into a microphone alone in my apartment at 8 p.m. and that I connected with so many amazing women, I would not have believed you. My life has done a complete 180 since launching this podcast in the best way possible. So before we even kick off season 3, let me just say thank you. Thank you to all of the incredible women who have been guests on this show and who have shown up to cultivate this community and provide support for women. And also thank you so much to the listeners for being here and for tuning in every week and for giving your feedback and really trusting in yourself and for clicking that play button. I am so honored and thrilled to walk alongside you in this journey. So let's get right into the juiciness of today's episode without further delaying it. I am freeballing this episode. I honestly don't have any notes. I have 3 or 4 topics written down that I know we're going to talk about, but it just feels like this is a little life update. And of course, as with every episode, there are learnings and ways to tap into your feminine energy that you will take away from this episode. But I kind of just want it to be a little catch-up session. And I hope you enjoy these episodes as much as I do, because while they make my Virgo rising brain a little anxious, I feel like they are necessary sometimes just to get that personal side of me. You know, it can be just like chatting with a friend. But also it feels really good for me to just be as open and honest as possible and a little bit less structured. So let us get into it. Okay, life update number 1 that I want to talk about, the elephant in the room. I have been on a little hiatus for about a month. Honestly, I wasn't tracking how long I was taking off for. I was just taking off for a couple weeks, and whenever I felt ready to return to the podcast around this time, I would. We have a couple more months left in this year. It is going to be filled with amazingness on all of our ends. But what did I get into on this hiatus? Well, if you listened to the last couple episodes, you know that I was working on a children's book. Side note, things did not go as planned with that. I was having some trouble with the fonts and the way it was exporting. The illustrator was kind of giving me a little bit of sass. The colors weren't coming up right. Amazon was just being annoying in publishing the book. So naturally, I feel like things just always take a little bit longer than we anticipate and than we plan for. But moral of the story, and the point of me telling you this, is that the book is out. It is published. I can now say that I am a published author. And that feels so aligned, so good, so juicy to say. If you don't know about my book, it is a vegan children's book. It is kind of a true story. It is kind of my story towards becoming a vegan. And it is that sometimes kids do as they're told and they will eat what is on their plate. And it's not until, maybe like 3 or 4 years old that kids start to develop consciousness and really think about the choices that they're making. And there's a lot of videos all over the internet of kids crying when they realize that the chicken that they loved at the petting zoo is the same chicken that's in their chicken nuggets. And I remember that very pivotal moment for me as a kid, and now seeing these videos of kids going through that same experience honestly breaks my heart. And that led me to write this book so that children do not have to feel so alone in their journey towards wanting to live a plant-based lifestyle. So if you have a child or know a child who is interested in plant-based eating, or if you want to teach your kids that what we consume can be a way to show love to animals, our bodies, and the planet, my book is called What's on My Plate? Subtitle, Cultivating Empathy and Making Compassionate Choices for Vegan and Vegetarian Kids. I know that's a mouthful. Honestly, if you go on Amazon and just search What's on My Plate, it is the book that is by Rachel Loren. So let me know if you buy it. You can always tag me on Instagram. If you do, that would be fantastic. But I just hope that this book encourages kids to think about the choices that they make and feel brave enough to advocate for animals at an early age. The entire process of writing this book has been so surreal to me, from actually writing what I would have loved to have listened to as a child, and even, coming up with illustrations that I would have loved to have seen as a kid. Thinking back to those times is really surreal and beautiful. But also another thing, and again, I want to say thank you so much to all of the listeners, is that someone had commented on my Facebook post when I had launched this book and said, thank you for using your voice in this way. And you are so strong and so brave for taking initiative and writing this book. And it's so necessary. Something along the lines of that. And honestly, for the first time, I was like, wow, I am doing that. And if you would have told me, like I said, a year ago, that I would have found my voice, not even just as an author or as a podcaster, but like in general, found my voice and was not afraid to do what I want and to tell my story and to publish it for all of the world to see, like I would have not believed you. And it has been the most humbling, beautiful journey. And I'm so grateful for this person for leaving that comment on my Facebook post, because it was so beautiful to have someone else acknowledge it on my behalf. So yeah, that is one of the things that I have been up to on this podcast hiatus. And the big takeaway here is that everyone has asked me, or everyone who knows about the book has asked me, like, what inspired me to write this book? And the answer I give them is that I feel like I've always wanted to write a book, especially a book talking to children, because A, I love kids, and B, I think that what kids read and the visuals that they see have such an impact on their life. And I know that my impact can be so beautiful on children. So it just really felt like a no-brainer. It felt like something easy that I knew I wanted to do, and I just did it. And that is a beautiful segue into the next thing that I have been up to on this hiatus, which is putting together my 6-month program. I have free courses online. I have $29 courses online. I have guidebooks, and I have podcast episodes, and I have all of this amazing content on the website. But I was like, okay, Rachel, I really have to start taking my business a little bit more seriously and really treat it as a business that needs to grow. So what I have been doing on the side is learning about sales. If you've ever been on a sales call with me, you probably know that I give away way too much free content, that I'm really bad at the aspect of selling. And I mean, honestly, I don't even want to say that I'm bad at it because I think sales is just a learned behavior. And I think it's something that I haven't really taken the time to learn. So what I have been up to also on this hiatus is A, learning sales, and B, writing this program because I feel like I want to have a larger impact on people's lives than just a weekly podcast or just a guidebook. I really want to help hold people accountable. I want people to feel comfortable tapping into their feminine energy and to learn what I have learned and what has taken me years to learn. So I've faced a little bit of a block in the sales aspect of this. And so on this hiatus, I have been learning sales from a program called School, which if you've not heard about it, I get a bunch of ads for it. And that's what prompted me to download it. But honestly, there is so much cool free content on School, spelled Skool, that I have just been absorbing and also simultaneously working on this program and working on my website, which is also exciting and again, feels really good and aligned. In doing all of this research about sales and putting together my 6-month course, which will be launching TBD very soon, I was faced with sort of my shadow self and sort of these like limiting beliefs. And I was like, oh my God, I hate to be sold by a coach. Like I've done it a million times. I've been on the receiving end of a million sales calls, and there's something that just feels slimy about it. And that just doesn't feel good and positive in my body. And I was like, well, I don't want to make anyone else feel like that. So I'm not going to sell people the traditional way. I'm, just going to put myself out there as best as I can. And whoever comes to me, comes to me. But a big kind of aha moment that I had throughout this process is that if you have something valuable to offer, which I know I do, I have done years and years of research. I love reading. I love listening to podcasts. I love hearing from women who have studied the subject. And I also love studying the subject myself. If you have value, and I have value through all of that, plus my own experiences, then you're really doing a disservice by not being good at sales because enough people are not seeing the value. And in order to put out what you want to say, and in order to get people to listen, they have to buy. And there's only so much, free stuff that you can give someone. If it's free, they don't really take it seriously. So it has to be a paid program. It has to, be an investment that people make in themselves. And then you're having the opportunity to serve. And that was my real aha moment when it came to learning about sales. There are so many coaches out there. And why you should work with me as opposed to 10 other coaches who teach feminine embodiment and magnetism, I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is that I come to you with all of the knowledge, all of the skills, and I want to give you that value as much as I can. So I am here to serve not only you, but also my higher purpose. And so that was the lesson that I had to learn, and the hump that I had to get over was, if this is my higher purpose, and I'm pretty confident that it is, then I have to show that to people and prove it to them and sell to them so that I can help raise the vibration of the female collective. And I have to get good at sales, period, end of story. I know a lot of my listeners are female entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs or baby entrepreneurs. And the lesson that I want you to take away from my story of both the book and getting good at sales is I do not want you to get caught up in the analysis paralysis of it all. There are so many wannabe entrepreneurs who take time to do research and then get caught up in the research and just feel like they're never ready. I like the example of having kids. I feel like you're never really ready to have kids. Even if you think you're ready, there's always some sort of what if that comes up. And if you're a parent, maybe you can relate to this. I'm not, but that's just what I hear from my friends and family and coworkers and clients who are parents. But they always say, like, there's never a right time to have kids. You just have to know that you want it. And same thing goes for your entire life, but more specifically, your business. There really is never the right time to start your business or to launch that program or to write that book or to launch the podcast. If you know that you want something, do not put it off, because you can be sitting on your butt all day doing research and trying to absorb as much information as you can, and then a year could go by. But in that year that you've been doing, quote, research, you could have started your business and had an entire year under your belt. That leads me into the main topic that I want to hit on in today's episode. I know we're like 18 minutes in and I haven't gotten there yet, but it's that you need to get out of your own way and stop thinking. And I know what you're thinking right now is like, stop thinking, but Rachel, how am I going to get anything done? Well, if you're feeling stuck or like you're caught in a loop or like you're trying to figure everything out, like your mind becomes this game of ping pong, bouncing from one possibility to the next. 1 minute, everything is good and okay, and you have all of this hope and possibility for your life and your business. And then the next, it's like, oh, but what if the worst case scenario happens? That is not a fun place for your mind to be in, but A, does not help you magnetize your desires. And it's definitely not your feminine side talking. So if you feel this way, you're not alone. And there's a few things and insights that I want to share with you. So first, let's talk about where these thoughts come from. A lot of our thoughts are not even truly ours. They're like echoes of things that we've heard, seen, experienced in the past. Your mind is like a sponge and it soaks up opinions from society, from your family, from friends, from social media. But just because a thought of like worst case scenario or something like that pops into your head, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true or even useful. Sometimes it's just noise. And the first step in realizing that you can stop thinking and start magnetizing is to question these thoughts. And you don't really have to believe everything that you think. So it's just like that example of me seeing sales as icky. I have been sold to by coaches. I have been sold to by car salesmen and everyone in between. And I had developed this preconceived notion that sales equals slimy. But then once I took the time to step back and really analyze the situation and start to see sales for what it is, which is beautiful and helping to raise the vibration of the female collective, I could filter out that noise and those thoughts that were keeping me stuck in where I'm at in my business. Another reason that you might be feeling stuck, whether in your business or in your life in general, is because we are trying to control everything. We think if we just think about every possible outcome, then we can somewhat control what happens next, or control the way that we feel about it. And so that is a little bit of our ego seeping in, trying to protect us. But here's the truth. A, control is an illusion. And no matter how much we plan or we think things through, we cannot possibly predict an outcome. And B, that variety is the spice of life. And sometimes you just have to let go and trust in divine timing and trust in the universe that things will work out, even if it's not exactly how you imagined it. This is a really good time for us to do a little activity. So you can go ahead and pause the podcast after I give you this little exercise to do. But I want you to think about a time when you have felt the most happy. You felt abundant, you felt loved, you felt aligned. What was a specific time in your life that you felt that way? After that, I want you to think about how you felt. Were you feeling alive, exuberant, happy? What feelings arise when you think of that time? Now, I want you to think what thoughts were going through your head at that time. And more likely than not, there really were no thoughts going through your head when you have felt that alignment. The conclusion that I'm drawing here is that the more we think about things, the tighter hold on them we have and the more tangled up we get. And letting go of that control can actually give you the freedom to feel that abundant and to magnetize that into your life with feminine ease. When we let go of that level of control, then we actually allow miracles into our life and can expect them without knowing the how of how they're going to get to us and how things are going to play out. And a fundamental of this is just being present in the moment. Overthinking can pull you into the past, and you could think about all of the wrong things that you've done and how you're going to do things different in the future. But being present in the moment is where the true clarity lives. When you're fully present and your mind quiets down a little bit, you can actually hear your own intuition. This is why people have their best ideas when they're driving in the car or they're in the shower, because our mind is kind of removed from the equation. We're just doing things mindlessly, and we're not clouded by all of these negative what ifs. When you're present, you're actually more in tune with the things that you actually want rather than what you're afraid might happen. This level of alignment is the perfect example of what happened to me when writing this book. I simply felt called to do it, so I did it. And it never really felt like work to me. It just felt like something fun and exhilarating and new and exciting and spontaneous. And it came from a place of love and nurturing and compassion, which are all traits of the divine feminine. So next time you're thinking of something that you want to do or you need to do, ask yourself, is this idea coming from inspiration or desperation? Because it will feel good in your body and you will feel all of those positive feelings. If it comes from inspiration, you'll feel really good, as opposed to desperation will feel really negative in your body, and you will dread waking up in the morning and doing the tasks that you need to do to accomplish this goal. And honestly, while I'm on this gratitude tour, that is how this podcast has felt for me. It has felt so good and invigorating and coming from a place of love that I'm just really excited to share more and more and more with you all and just keep interviewing amazing people, which is the perfect segue into our last topic of the day, last little life update that I'm just going to come right out and say it. I am launching the Dangerously Divine. Actually, it's not called Dangerously Divine. It is called Divine Feminine Goddess magazine. And the reason and inspiration behind launching a magazine is for me personally, there are times where I'm scrolling through Instagram and I wish that it was Twitter. And I know I can scroll through Twitter or X, and I can scroll through Threads, but it seems like a lot of our content is now video focused and audio focused. And there's times where I just want to like read a funny meme or like read something and learn. I don't always want to like watch a video. So it's coming from my own personal desire for something written, but also because if you noticed, season 1 was a lot more of me talking about feminine energy and magnetism. And season 2 of this podcast was mostly interviews about all different things, spirituality, ranging from dating to astrology to hypnosis and everything in between, that I realized there are so many female-founded businesses and women entrepreneurs that I wanted to highlight. And the podcast is not the place to do it because I want to keep everything super educational and informative and tailored to you, my audience. But I still want to highlight those businesses for the other people that may want them. So I was like, okay, I cannot possibly come out with 4 podcast episodes a week. Like that would be impossible for me personally right now at this time in my life. But I still wanted a place where these people could share their stories. So we will still be having guests on this podcast, but you can expect maybe like 10 guests as opposed to last season that had closer to like 15 to 17. But the online magazine is where you can find mostly guest articles because I want to highlight spirituality specifically in women's lives and how it's impacted them so that we can learn about these different modalities and get to a place where we feel really supported in our lives and in our journeys from each other. That is all of my life updates for you. The book, the sales and program that I am launching, the magazine. I am busy as a bee in the most fantastic way possible. And I really owe so much gratitude to all of the listeners. So thank you so much. And if you've been on this journey with me for a while, then please reach out to me on Instagram at I am dangerously divine, or any other way that you know how to contact me through email or even through text, whatever it might be. I am always here to support you, to show you love, and to just be a pillar in your life of positive, nurturing, feminine energy. And I want nothing more than to see you grow into the successful, loving, aligned, highest level version of yourself. So please do not be a stranger. I owe so much of the beauty of my life to you, and I just want to repay all of that back to you tenfold. Please remember, if you haven't already, to go ahead and rate and review this show. This just helps let me know that you enjoy the topics that I'm covering here. And if you have any suggestions for future episodes, my DMs are always open at I am dangerously divine on Instagram. I love you more today than yesterday, but not as much as tomorrow. Thank you so much for listening to the Dangerously Divine podcast. Have a great day, and I will see you all next week.